Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into this new malware campaign. It's called ClearFake. And you know you're into cybersecurity, so this is going to be right up your alley. This thing uses a pretty wild technique. It's called EtherHiding, and it involves the Binance Smart Chain, and we're going to take a look at how this thing works, what makes it so dangerous, and try to figure out who could be behind it. We've got some reports from cybersecurity researcher Randy McEwen, and some analysis from Conexasac and Guardio Labs to help us out. So let's get into it.
The thing that makes ClearFake so interesting is how it uses these classic social engineering tricks. But with a really modern twist, they're all about fake updates. It's like that SocGholish and fake SG malware that we've seen before. They trick people into downloading this malware that's disguised as a software update.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true. But in this case, it's more like, if that update notification seems a little aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. And the scary thing is, it seems to be working. A good example is this campaign from September 2023. It targeted macOS users searching for that trading software. They were tricked into downloading Atomic Stealer malware.
Ah, man, that's rough. So these guys are casting a wide net, huh? Going after a big audience through hacked WordPress websites, and even something called drive-by downloads. Wait, what are drive-by downloads exactly?
Well, imagine you're browsing the internet. You're not even clicking anything. And all of a sudden, bam, malicious software downloads right onto your computer without you knowing about it. That's a drive-by download. It's a favorite tactic for spreading malware because it's so quick and silent.
Okay, that's pretty sneaky. And this tactic, this isn't just ClearFake, is it?
Right. Groups like TA569, Rogue Radicate, and ZPHP, they use those similar fake browser updates. But ClearFake has this twist. It's what makes it so difficult to stop. That's where ether hiding comes in.
Okay, so let's get to the bottom of this. What makes ether hiding different?
Well, they're using blockchain technology, specifically the Binance Smart Chain, to hide and deliver their malware. It's actually pretty ingenious. They're exploiting the features that make blockchain so attractive, its immutability and decentralized nature, to make this malware practically invisible to traditional security systems.
So instead of storing their malicious code on a server, they're using the blockchain like a digital hiding spot.
That's exactly it. And because blockchain is permanent and tamper-proof, once the code is on the blockchain, it's so difficult to remove or even detect.
Wow, so they're using blockchain strengths against us. That's disturbingly clever. But how does it work? How do they get this malware on people's computers with the blockchain?
It all comes down to smart contracts. Think of them like a set of instructions on the blockchain. They automatically execute when certain conditions are met.
Okay, I think I get that.
What these ClearFake developers are doing is they're embedding malicious code disguised as this obfuscated JavaScript. They put it inside of these smart contracts on the Binance Smart Chain. It just sits there waiting.
So it's like a ticking time bomb on the blockchain.
In a way, yes. So when the malware infects the system, it triggers the smart contract. That malicious code is retrieved, decoded, and executed. And the scary thing is it's using legitimate blockchain infrastructure. So it bypasses security measures looking for anything suspicious.
Hold on, so they're using a system designed for transparency and security to deliver malware. Isn't that kind of ironic?
Yeah, it is pretty ironic. But it shows that any technology can be used for both good and bad purposes. The challenge for cybersecurity professionals is to keep up and find new ways to counter these threats.
So the malware's on the blockchain, it gets triggered by an infected system. But how does that initial infection even happen?
Things get even trickier here. They use compromised WordPress websites to redirect traffic to Cloudflare worker hosts.
Cloudflare, isn't that a legitimate service that's supposed to protect websites?
It is. But hackers have found a way to exploit Cloudflare to mask their malicious activity. They use it to make their malware distribution more discreet and harder to trace.
Okay, so they're using a trusted service as a front for their schemes. It's like they're hiding in plain sight.
Exactly. Imagine you're on a website, seems harmless enough, and then this pop-up appears out of nowhere. Says you need to update your browser, you click it thinking it's legitimate, but then bam, you've downloaded dangerous infoscaler malware, like Redline, Amity, or Luma.
That's nasty. So they're using compromised WordPress sites as a gateway to deliver malware.
Yeah, and they do it in a pretty clever way. They inject this malicious code into the compromised website that tells it to fetch pieces of the payload from those hidden blockchain contracts.
So the BSC smart contracts are like a secret staging ground for the malware.
You got it. It's free, anonymous hosting. It makes them really hard to track down. And they can update their code or switch tactics super easily. Just create a new transaction. It's like this constantly evolving threat.
Sounds like a nightmare for anyone trying to keep their system secure. What evidence have researchers found to back this up?
The Binance Smart Chain transaction history tells a pretty interesting story. That first malicious contract linked to ClearFake was created way back on September 9th, 2023. And guess what? The address user created. It was set up all the way back in June of 2022.
So they've been planning this for a while.
Seems that way. And here's something interesting. The fees for creating and updating these contracts are dirt cheap, like anywhere from 0.02 to 0.60 USD. They aren't exactly spending a lot of money to spread their malware.
So they can set up this whole scheme for less than $1. That's insane. What else does the transaction history tell us?
Well, the first entry was just a basic test string. But then the following entries get more and more complex. With more sophisticated JavaScript techniques, it's clear they're trying to stay one step ahead of any security measures looking for their code.
So it's like a cat and mouse game, with the attackers constantly changing things up. But doesn't this put Binance in a tough spot? Their platform is being used to distribute malware? What can they even do about it?
It's a real dilemma for them. These infected smart contracts, they operate by themselves. So Binance has to rely on their developers to find and flag the bad code. It's a reactive approach instead of a proactive one. Makes it difficult to keep up with the attackers.
So Binance is relying on basically a neighborhood watch to protect users from cybercrime.
Kinda, yeah. It's a complex problem with no easy answers. Which brings us to the next part of our investigation. Who's behind this whole thing? Do we have any suspects?
I'm all ears. Let's find out.
To solve a mystery like this, cybersecurity experts often use something called the diamond model of intrusion analysis. It's a framework for understanding these threats by looking at four things: the adversary, the infrastructure, the capability, and the victim. It's like putting together a puzzle.
So if we analyze these four elements, we can get an idea of who might be behind ClearFake.
Exactly. And based on this model and some great work by a cybersecurity firm called Bridewell, all signs point to a group known as TA569.
TA569. Aren't those the folks behind those SocGholish attacks we talked about before?
That's right. They're known for using website injections that lead to the SocGholish JavaScript payload. But Proofpoint, another cybersecurity firm, has noticed some changes in their tactics recently. It seems like they might be branching out, moving away from those typical SocGholish fake updates.
So they're changing up their methods, but why?
Well, cybercriminals are like any business. They need to adapt to stay ahead of the competition. They're all about making money right. They're constantly improving their techniques by analyzing what works and what doesn't.
So ClearFake and this ether hiding technique could be their way of stepping up their game, becoming more sophisticated and harder to catch.
That's the idea. They've probably realized that sticking with just those SocGholish fake update packages might not be as effective anymore. So they're trying new things, like using blockchain to hide their malware.
It's a constant back and forth between attackers and defenders.
For sure. As defenders get better, the attackers have to innovate to get around those defenses.
And in this case, they're using cutting-edge technology like blockchain to do it. But what does all of this mean for the average person browsing the internet? What are the implications of ether hiding and techniques like it?
That's an important question. Ether hiding could signal a major shift in the cyber threat landscape. We might see more attackers using blockchain for bad things, which will make it tougher for traditional security to protect us.
It's a little unsettling. This technology designed for transparency and security is being used for malicious things.
Yeah, it is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
But remember, any technology, no matter how revolutionary, can be used for good or bad. What's important is understanding the potential risks and how to protect ourselves.
So what can we do to protect ourselves against these new threats? Are we just sitting ducks?
Not at all. While the usual security measures like antivirus software and firewalls might not work as well against these blockchain-based attacks, there are things we can do.
Oh, thank goodness. Like,
Well, first we need to raise awareness. People need to know how these attacks work and what they can do to stay safe. This means watching out for suspicious pop-ups, keeping software updated, and being careful about what they download.
so education is key. But on a technical level, are there any new tools or strategies being developed to counter these blockchain threats?
Definitely. The cybersecurity community is working on new solutions. Blockchain analytics, for example, can help us track and trace transactions on the blockchain, potentially leading investigators back to the source of the attack. And there are new techniques for auditing smart contracts to find vulnerabilities before they're exploited.
So it's like giving investigators a better way to analyze those transactions.
Exactly. Plus, there are efforts to improve the security of smart contracts so they're less vulnerable to being exploited in the first place. This involves things like using formal verification techniques and better auditing tools to spot weaknesses before the attackers can take advantage of them.
So it's a two-pronged approach. Make it harder to hide and harder to attack in the first place.
Right. And just as importantly, we need to educate developers and users about the potential risks of blockchain technology. Just like we teach people about phishing scams and other online threats, we need to inform them about the unique security challenges that come with blockchain.
I guess it goes back to what you were saying about collaboration. We need the whole blockchain ecosystem to work together. Developers, platform providers, cybersecurity experts, and even everyday users all need to do their part to create a safer environment.
You nailed it. It's everyone's responsibility. We need to share information, best practices, and even intelligence about threats to stay ahead of the curve.
It sounds like this ether hiding technique has really shaken things up. It's forcing the industry to rethink how they approach security. What kind of impact do you think this will have on the future of blockchain?
I think this is a major turning point. It's exposed some vulnerabilities that need to be fixed, but it's also pushed innovation and put a bigger focus on security. In the long run, this is going to make blockchain more robust and resilient.
So you're optimistic about the future of blockchain, that we can overcome these challenges and build a safer system.
I am. Blockchain has so much potential to change our lives for the better. From finance and supply chains to healthcare and voting, it would be a shame to let a few bad actors ruin all that.
That's reassuring. But what about the average person who's not a developer or a cybersecurity expert? What can they do to stay safe in this constantly changing environment?
The most important thing is to stay informed. Read about the latest threats and best practices for security. Be wary of suspicious emails, links, and pop-ups, especially anything related to cryptocurrency or blockchain. And remember, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
So just like with anything else online, be careful, be informed, and be aware.
You got it. And don't be afraid to ask for help or advice from experts if you're unsure about something. The blockchain community is generally very helpful, and there are tons of resources available online and in person.
Well, that's a great point to end on. Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into ether hiding and ClearFake. It's been fascinating, even though it's a little scary.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, knowledge is power. The more we know about these threats, the better we can protect ourselves and create a safer digital future.
I agree. To everyone listening, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, stay safe out there. Until next time.
So we were just talking about the long-term impact of this ether hiding. Do you think this is the start of this constant battle between the folks trying to exploit blockchain and the ones trying to defend it? It feels like we're at the beginning of a cyber arms race.
I think that's a pretty good way to put it. We see with ClearFake, attackers are taking advantage of blockchain's unique characteristics.
Yeah.
The decentralization, the immutability, that anonymity. They're using it to their advantage.
But wouldn't blockchain's transparency make it hard to hide in the long run? I mean, isn't every single transaction recorded and trackable? Well, yes and no. There are ways to make those transactions harder to trace, ways to obfuscate things. And the sheer volume of transactions happening on a blockchain like Binance Smart Chain, it's just massive. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
So it's like this huge game of hide and seek. What can we do to make that haystack a little bit smaller?
That's where innovation comes in. We're seeing really exciting developments in blockchain analytics. They're developing these tools that track and analyze those blockchain transactions way more effectively. These tools can help find patterns and anything unusual, things that might point to malicious activity.
So it's like giving investigators a better way to look at all those transactions.
Exactly. There are also efforts to improve smart contract security, trying to make them less vulnerable to attacks in the first place. Things like formal verification techniques and better auditing tools to catch those weaknesses before the attackers can get to them.
So we're hitting it from both sides. Make it harder to hide and harder to attack.
Right. And one more thing that's super important. We got to educate developers and users about the potential dangers of blockchain. Just like we warned people about phishing scams and online threats, we got to tell them about the unique security challenges that come with blockchain.
It goes back to that collaboration you mentioned. We need the whole blockchain world working together on this. The developers, the platforms, the security folks, even the regular users. Everyone needs to pitch in to make it safer.
I completely agree. It's on all of us. We got to share knowledge, best practices, and intelligence about threats if we want to stay ahead.
It sounds like this whole ether hiding thing has been a real wake-up call. It's forced the industry to take a good look at security. How do you think it will change the future of blockchain?
Honestly, I think it's a game changer. It's shown us some weaknesses that we need to fix, but it's also led to some cool new innovations and a much stronger focus on security. In the long run, this is going to make blockchain stronger and more resilient.
So you're hopeful that we can overcome these challenges and build a safer future for blockchain.
Definitely. Blockchain has so much potential. It can revolutionize so many parts of our lives, from finance and supply chains to healthcare and voting. We can't let a few bad apples spoil all that.
Well, that's good to hear. What about the average person, the people who aren't developers or security experts? How can they stay safe in this crazy digital world?
The most important thing is to stay informed. Read up on the latest threats and how to protect yourself. Be careful about suspicious emails, links, and pop-ups, especially if it has anything to do with crypto or blockchain. And remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
So basically, be careful, be smart, and be aware.
Yep. And never be afraid to ask questions. If you're not sure about something, reach out to an expert. The blockchain community is usually really helpful, and there are a ton of resources out there.
That's a great place to wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into EtherHiding and ClearFake. It's been a wild ride.
It was my pleasure. And remember, knowledge is power. The more we know about these threats, the better we can protect ourselves and make the digital world a safer place.
Absolutely. To everyone listening, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay safe out there. Until next time.